Just want to thank Mark and Richard for inviting me here for this update. Last year, I was on the stage with Dean Ornish, and we were talking about neuroplasticity and the fact that our genes aren't necessarily deterministic. And that information here created a book for me, which was called Reinventing the Body, Resurrecting the Soul, and went on to become a New York Times bestseller. Thank you for providing me the podium to get that information. As a result of the meeting last year, I also met over here Alexander Ciaras, whose films you've seen. And after I saw his stuff, I went up to him and I said, "You've got to help me create a map for the biology of consciousness." And so Alex said, "I don't know what the heck you're talking about." And I pursued him. I took him to Boston, where I was giving a lecture, the continuing medical education course at Harvard Medical School, Beth Israel Hospital. Finally convinced him that we could work together, and we ended up creating a program called The Biology of Love. And I'll just show you a 1-minute clip of a program that's now on your iPhones if you want to see it, on the internet. Can you show the... And her expressions of love all have a biological purpose.
The powerful bond between a mother and her baby begins before the baby is even born. When the sperm fertilizes the egg at conception, it forms a single cell called a zygote, which begins dividing. After about 4 to 5 days, it's called a blastocyst, and it burrows itself into the wall of the mother's uterus. At this point, the bonding has begun.
As soon as implantation occurs, the mother's body starts to undergo physiological changes.
Those changes begin with hormonal shifts, igniting an intimate and carefully coordinated conversation between the biology of the mother and the genetically distinct embryo. In theory, the mother's body should reject this new and foreign substance. But over the course of the pregnancy, her body will adapt to meet the needs of her baby. Her blood volume will increase.
So over and over again, over here we've heard that if you want to change people's behavior in the direction of well-being, it's not enough to give information. You have to tell a compelling story, and it has to have emotional content. So now Alex and I are continuing to with our partnership to tell compelling stories about how you can actually take charge of your biology, reverse the biological markers of aging by as much as 30 years in less than 4 months. In the last year also, I've been very engaged with Gallup as a senior scientist, and we've looked at other aspects of health, from career well-being to financial well-being, to social well-being, physical well-being, and community well-being. And they're all very intimately connected. Over here, everyone is so passionate about what they do, but when we surveyed people through the globe, only 20% of people were able to say that they were happy with what they did in their careers. In fact, one of the most startling statistics that emerged from our surveys is that in the United States, more people die on Monday morning at 9 o'clock of cardiovascular accidents than any other time. This is an astonishing accomplishment for which only the human species can take credit, because no other animal knows the difference between Monday and Tuesday. If your supervisor or your boss ignores you, your chances of getting disengaged go up by 45%, and ultimately you fall sick. On the other hand, if your supervisor criticizes you, or superior criticizes you, your chances of disengagement decrease to 20% because you would rather be criticized than ignored. When you're ignored, it means you don't exist. So we have this great need for attention. If your supervisor or boss notices your strength, or one strength, your rate of disengagement falls to less than 1%, and you are a healthy person. So this has huge implications, economic implications, for the well-being of our society. If you have an obese friend, your chances of being obese go up by 47%. If you have a happy friend, then your chances of being happy go up by 15%. But if your happy friend has a happy friend whom you don't know, they go up by another 10%. And if your happy friend's happy friend has a happy friend whom you don't know, they go up by another 7%. So how could this be? I think we're learning a lot about how consciousness is a field. You know, the great physicist Schrödinger said, consciousness is a singular that has no plural. Now, there's a lot to say about this, but I don't have the time. We also looked at financial well-being and found that the healthiest people were those who didn't spend money that they hadn't earned to buy things that they didn't need to impress people that they didn't like. Okay. So I'm going to go on now. Just 2 more slides. Looked at spiritual well-being, and we're creating a map for this. Are you comfortable with the fact of your mortality? Are you in touch with the dark side of your soul? Do you know that there are states of awareness that go beyond waking, dreaming, and sleeping? That every state of consciousness creates its own biology. And so this has been an interest of mine for the last 30 years. But this year I took a personal spiritual journey and said, I'm going to ordain as a monk for a month and live the life of a monk. So here I went to a monastery in Thailand. And that's me. The picture was taken by a novice, about 12 years of age. And the routine was that we went begging for our food every morning. That's my arms round in the morning. And the only difficult part of this was that it hurt, because you had to walk through the forest and streets amidst rubble, and it hurt the feet, you know, because I'm not used to walking barefoot. And when I came back, I said to my abbot, it really hurts. He says, it hurts when you put the foot down, but when you lift the other foot up, the absence of pain is extremely pleasurable. So focus on that foot. And I did. And I realized, and then when I came back, he said, you know, when you have a toothache, you're miserable. And when the toothache goes away, you're so ecstatic. Why don't you celebrate your non-toothache all the time? And so that was an amazing journey for me. And with all my interest in consciousness over the 30 years that I have done, this was the most valuable experience that I had. At the end, when I was leaving, the abbot said to me, you know, if you're interested in spirituality, how's it changed you? Does it make your life any different? I'm going to give you one piece of advice. I'm going to give you the same piece of advice that he gave me. He said, the only moment that never ends is now. The most important activity in your life is what you're doing now. The most important people in your life are the ones that you're with now. And the most important way to create a future is to be present now. So before I leave, I just want you to do something for me. Turn your attention right now from me and from listening to me to the one who's listening. So as you're listening to me, be aware of the listener. That's presence. And that's now. Thank you.